You.
All right. My name is Manette. I'm not sure if you're able to see me, but that should be fine. Not very important. So welcome, good morning or good afternoon to everyone who has dialed in today. My name is Manette and welcome to our masterclass on dementia, what you need to know. This event is presented by Career Consultants Network, CCN Philippines, in partnership with Kirana Colleges Australia. So again, please call me Manette, your moderator in today's session. Just before we start, a quick reminders for everyone. Today's session is being recorded. I'll make sure everyone receives a copy via email just a few days after the session. Please remain on mute to avoid background noise. And we invite your comments and questions. Please feel free to type in the chat box. I saw that some people already used the chat box. Awesome. And there will be an e-certificate a few days after the session that will be sent via email. This whole event will be running around 45 to 60 minutes. So without further ado, may I now introduce our masterclass guest speaker. We have Ava Mayer, trainer and assessor at Kirana Colleges Australia. And Ava will be focusing on our main topic, dementia, and how to provide long-term service for clients with dementia in aged care. So let me now give the floor to Ava. Let me just stop sharing the screen. Ava, over to you.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody to this first webinar that we've done from Sydney's Kirana Colleges. My name is Eva Ma and I am a long-term aged care worker and trainer and assessor. My history in the industry is 55 years for aged care, dementia and community services, as well as the other areas of community services, disabilities, etc. But today is about dementia and how we manage dementia and work with dementia in Australia. We are very highly regulated in Australia in relation to our legislation and regulations. So we have to follow a very strong criteria of both of those areas. So the areas that we have are a Charter of Rights for aged care, and then we have the standards. We'll be pushing through a link for you to have a look at Aged Care Australia, so you'll be able to go through all of those individually at your own leisure, because they are very extensive, but it's a very important factor on how we deliver quality care for people with dementia. So if we have a look at how we manage dementia, we need to actually know what is dementia and how does it affect the person. The main points that you need to remember when you have a person who you think has dementia, it must be identified and properly diagnosed. If it is not diagnosed to the type of dementia that the person has, then the individual cannot be treated correctly, because there are so many types of dementia, but the four main types that give us an outline of what this disease does is very important about the diagnosis. So as soon as an indication that we have signs of some dementia, it's very important to have them diagnosed correctly by a specialist so that those development plans can be put into place to manage the dementia. So when we talk about dementia, what is it? It is not just to aged care. Dementia is a disease of the brain, and it can occur anytime between the youngest child or the youngest person in Australia is 9 years old who has dementia. So it's not just an old person's disease. They have changed that from that dementia to call loss of memory syndrome. So when we go into the aged care factor, from 45 onwards, you can have early onset dementia. What sort do we have? Alzheimer's is usually the first area of dementia. Now, the first area of dementia for Alzheimer's is that people start to lose their short-term memory. They can't remember what they should be doing today. They can't remember what they did yesterday, but they can remember what they did years ago. So the short-term memory starts to fade. They're the first signs. Now, if they're properly diagnosed, the treatment can slow the disease. Does not stop it, but it slows it. and that's why it's important for the diagnosis to be done. Then if you go from there to you have frontal lobe dementia, which affects their judgment. Some of their judgment gets, when I say their judgment, they can't control their moods, they can't control their behavior sometimes. So those areas are really important factors of, once again, they might start to join together. Alzheimer's will progress to all other sorts of dementia, but it never digresses back. So if you have vascular dementia, or you have frontal lobe dementia, or you have Lewy bodies dementia, it does not digress back to Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's only progresses forward. So what are the effects on a person who is caring for these people? When you start to care for a person with dementia, you have to learn the skills, and you need to get the demonstration of long-term methods of how a person has to be dealt with, and no person is the same. Every person must be looked after as an individual if we do that care in Australia. So everywhere in the world, people are looking at how we look at the person as an individual. So when we have the diagnosis correct, then we have the treatment that fits with that correctly. You've got to remember that a person with dementia is not being difficult at any time. People think that they are not taking notice. They think that they are trying to be difficult. This is not the case. What they are doing is, when they have the disease, all of those things disappear. So this is not the person that you may have known, or a family may have known as mum or dad. This is the person that you now have, that is your mum and dad, or your loved one, that has a brain disease. Because dementia is a disease of the brain. How fast it progresses is up to the individual. Sometimes it progresses very quickly, sometimes it doesn't. So we need to look at how you manage those, and what are the things that you need to look for during those times. If you have Lewy bodies dementia, it is aggressive, usually very aggressive, but the behaviours that come with that are hallucinations. So they see people that are not there. They actually talk to their friends in the mirror. When they walk into a room and they see themselves, they actually think that that is a friend, because they do not recognise themselves as they are as an older person. They only remember what they looked like 30 or 40 years ago. So they talk to their friends in the mirror. The other thing that they will have imaginary friends in the room, or people who may be trying to hurt them or attack them or take them away. So Lewy bodies is a very difficult area of dementia. So you need to be able to handle that person with very soft, calm ability. So when we talk about the fact that we need to work with a person with those long-term dementias, it's patience, it's knowledge, it's skills. And it needs to be with lots of consultation. You need to consultate with the families, you need to consultate with doctors and clinical staff to make sure that that area of that person's life is as good as it can be for that time. Remember, there is no cure for dementia. It doesn't matter what we do, it's never going to be better than it is now, but it will progressively get worse. When we look at frontal lobe dementia, that is when the vascular systems start to break down and they lose the ability to manage their conversation. They become very hurtful. They say things that are hurtful to families. They say things that are hurtful to carers. But once again, your skills and knowledge should then be able to identify the fact that this is the disease, not the person. So when you work through those areas, you need to be able to clearly follow the plan and the development of the implementation of the treatment and the care for that person. Whether you're an RN or whether you are a support worker, a family member, the same rules apply to all caring for dementia. The case studies that you need to have a look at, or that come into mind, are people who have hallucinations, people who have, that's delusional sometimes. They become fearful. People who become lost in orientation is the first part, usually the first signs that things are going wrong is that they actually don't know where they are. So that first sign of dementia is not knowing where they are, or they can't remember your name or what they were doing at that point in time. Now, we all go through the point where we get overloaded with information and we forget things. We forget where we put our keys and our glasses. But the difference is we actually know that we have keys and we know that we have glasses. A person with the early signs of dementia and moving into those other areas of dementia don't remember that they have glasses, and they don't remember that they had a set of keys. They lose their orientation of even in their own environment. So it's very important that all their environment never changes. You do not change the environment. That is the physical environment that a dementia client it is. You don't change furniture, you don't change routines, you don't change your method of dealing with this person on a one-to-one basis, on a daily basis. That is, showers at the same time every day, meals at the same time every day, activities at the same time every day. If you have, for some reason, have to change their routine, you have to introduce it slowly and over a long period of time. Otherwise, confusion then causes behaviour concerns. Behaviour concerns then puts a client into a deterioration of their well-being, because once they become disorientated or confused, they may become aggressive. Now, when it becomes aggressive, that's when it is very difficult for families and carers, because everyone can be put into a precarious situation where they may be hurt or injured. So the routine factor that we have for clients with dementia are same time, same place, same situation every day. So you need to look at those over the long-term period. The reason that your plans will change or be adjusted for aged care is if something clinical changes with your client. They may be a client who has dementia through having a stroke. They may have another slight stroke, or they may have another severe stroke. The plan needs to change if that occurs. But if it doesn't occur, then the plan stays the same until the clinical changes occur where you do change those. So you need to develop these skills the way that we have to develop these over many years. As I said, my development over dementia and working with aged care clients is 55 years. I learn every day. Methods change, treatments change, and it's the only way that you can do this is to be able to go through the processes of continuous learning from when you start into the industry till the time that you exit the industry. It's a learning curve. By understanding how the symptoms of a dementia client will affect the care that you provide is the key to the success that you do or how you deliver your services. Within Australia, because of our very high regulations, we must meet those standards, and we have to give the clients the right to express their wishes, even if they're not capable of doing that in the terms that what a client might say can't be acknowledged as being true and correct, or to be safe, we still must allow them that privilege to do that. So when you work through this, you need to know that we have to follow that plan, follow the situation, make sure that we look after a client as that individual. And I can say in my many years, no dementia client is the same. Even if they're diagnosed with the same disease, the client is still not the same. So if you look at the proper care of your client, the only way that we can do that is with clear qualifications. If we have a look at some of the case studies that I've had during my time, in recent times, and I can say recent times because I still deal with clients, even though I'm a trainer and assessor full-time, I still have dementia clients that I work with. The situation when we have a client, the first signs that I see in clients in my community who have not been diagnosed are changes in behaviour. Their grooming changes, their deterioration in their personal appearance is the first thing. Clothes start to be grubby. They start to lose weight because they forget to eat, or they forget to turn up to an appointment. They're the first signs in our community. So when we work with those people in our community, I often say to a person, I've seen people in the shopping centre and I say, are you okay? And they'll look at me and say, I need to go to the taxi, but they can't remember where the taxi rank is. So that's an indication that there's something cognitive going wrong. So we need to work through those things when we see those with our clients, because your clients will show signs immediately that will give you areas of deterioration in their well-being. So have a look at, if you need to have in Australia a minimum of a Cert 3 in qualification, right? Cert 3 is the starting point to enter into aged care. With that Cert 3, it gives you the basic foundations of what we do. Now, the basic foundations are to be able to handle a client who is dementia, handle the duty of care, handle the risk of dignity, handle the legal and ethical requirements under our legislation and our human rights. That's the basic line. The next step up is an advancement on that. And so you can, once you do the Cert 3, you can then move to a Cert 4. In my experience, people who have not done the Cert 3 will not complete a Cert 4 correctly because they are lacking knowledge and information at the foundation level. So it is important that everybody understands remembering that clinical care is one part of dementia care, but for aged care workers, it is the skills and the foundation qualifications that give you the ability to work with that client. In my experience, RNs are good clinical staff, but if they haven't gone through the processes of a Cert 3 or a Cert 4, they don't understand the humanistic factor that we have to put into working in aged care with an aged care client. So it's a very important factor that you have a look at with a client from those points of view. If you are an RN or you are clinical staff, you need to add the skill set. Now, there is no person I know that is ever born with the skill set to work with dementia. It is a skill set that we have to learn. And you can't learn the practical skills without the foundation of the formal academic standards that we need. You need all those foundation modules of a Cert 3 to then start to move in to do that. So I hope that answers the question for employment that was just come up on the screen. Okay. From a personal point of view of working in aged care, I find it very, very, very rewarding. I think it is extremely good when you can go home at the end of the day and that you've known that you've made a difference to a person's life. Now, you cannot even, as I said before, you might have 5 clients with Lewy bodies dementia. That is not the same. You cannot use all the same treatment for each person. Every person has a different personality. If we have, okay, so a case study with Lewy bodies is when they have the hallucinations is a really important factor. I can give you a personal example of that. My mother, who was an academic, very dynamic at what have you, but she got dementia in the last 6 months of her life. And because she has an Irish background, she saw leprechauns, little green leprechauns, because Irish people talk about leprechauns all the time. She used to see them sitting on her television. She used to see them in the house, on the roof, dancing on the car. And originally when she did that, I thought I didn't know really what to do in relation to that. But you cannot at any time acknowledge that that's truthful. You actually have to tell them that they're not there. You're actually not seeing that. You think you see them, but they're not there. Then the behavior changes and they'll say, what do you mean they're not there? Of course they're there. So you've got to then work your way around on how to manage that hallucination so that it doesn't become fearful or it doesn't change the behavior of the client to aggressiveness. So I say to Mum, I used to say to my mother, what do you think they're doing, Mum? She said, they're not doing anything. I said, oh, so they're friendly ones, they're sitting there, they're being quite comfortable where they are. Okay, so we'll just leave them there and they'll disappear. And then in 5 minutes, they were gone, right? Also, because of the hallucinations, they come and go. One day they're good, the next day they're not. But like a child who is a young child, remember that it's hard work when you've got dementia. So a child gets tired very quickly. A client with dementia gets tired very quickly. So if they have a hallucination or they're dealing with something where they don't know where they are and their orientation is poor and they're confused, they get tired very quickly. So you need to then be able to manage that tiredness, and that is about putting them at rest, putting them to a physical environment where it's soft and calming, where they can become settled things. Remember about the sundowning of an afternoon. The sundowning of an afternoon is about the changing of a light. When we call the changing of a light, that's what we call here twilight. Going from sunrise to sunset is a very difficult time for people with dementia because it's a change in our own lives. We wake up of a morning and we know what we've got to do. Of an evening, we know what we've got to do in the evening process. When a person has dementia, they call it sundowning because they get very confused about it because they don't know what to do at that time. So you've got to give them things that are meaningful activities. What did this person do at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon in their normal life before the disease? So it might be for women, it would be getting dinner. It might be for men coming home from work. So what you do is you would put into their routine a system of doing things for that. What I used to do with women at that time of the afternoon, give them the vegetables to prepare for dinner. Give them a situation where I would give them a box of socks to pair up in colours or sizes or whatever, because it was meaningful. That's what they did in their days of being mothers at home or otherwise. And the majority of their people who are in aged care today were not working mothers. I'm the first generation of working mothers, right? So in Australia, before that, we didn't have working mothers. So they were home mothers who did all those sort of things, prepared dinner, got the washing in, sorted the washing out, and a lot of the times I will say to you, the children should be home. So the way that we combat in aged care is I used to always make sure that all the blinds were pulled before the changing of the light, before that 4:30 time in the winter time, and before 6 or 6:30 in the summertime. Bring the blinds down to make that so that this person doesn't see the changing of the light. If they don't see it, they don't remember it. But if they see it, it will react on their long-term memory. So that's an example of what you do in relation to combating that. And the sundowning creates all sorts of bad behaviour. They get agitated, they get frustrated, they get teary because the children aren't home. If you have a person who has the frontal lobe dementia, where they may feel that their children are not coming home, etc., they may need a doll to play with. But they don't play with it, they carry it around like it's a newborn baby. These sorts of therapies are things that we put into place in their plan when we actually have a proper diagnosis and we have all the history of this person. If it was a man at that time of the day and he comes home, he likes to come home, put his feet up, watch the television, read the paper, or do whatever they used to do in those days, your program should fit with that person. So if I had a man that I was looking after at that time, I would might put the television or the radio on. Remember, there was no television when they were young. Put the radio on, put the news on, give him a paper to read or give him a document to read so that he feels like he is back in that situation. So that's the areas where we can actually look at improving the lifestyle and the well-being of that person at that time. But nearly every person who suffers from a major stroke, there's a question from, in relation to this, do they develop dementia? For the majority of times, yes, they do. And there's lots of things that happen when they have dementia, when they have a stroke. If they have a stroke that affects the left or the right side, whichever it is, a lot of the time it will then affect the fact that they can't eat correctly and they can't speak. This in itself then starts to move on to dementia. Now, if they didn't have dementia before, the areas of the brain, because a stroke is vascular dementia, it interrupts the signals. Remember that the brain is just 1 million miles of blood vessels. When they have vascular dementia or a stroke, that means that a blood vessel has broken. That will clear in time, but it can't be repaired. So they might lose their short-term memory. They might lose their ability to swallow. When the left hand or the right hand side of their throat is affected by a stroke, this is when dementia can move really quickly because their nutrition fails. They lose a lot of body weight. They lose their mass body weight as well. That then in turn causes the dementia to move quickly, because when you don't get enough nutrition and enough glucose into your body, it actually tends to move dementia much quicker. So anyone who suffers a major stroke will often have some form of dementia. Not always, but for the majority. And that's why, once again, it has to be a diagnosis. Right, okay. So that's what we need. So you've got all sorts of Lewy bodies. Dementia is also accompanied usually with Parkinson's, where they have the tremors, etc. Right? Now they can treat Parkinson's disease, and to a certain degree, but it won't change the fact that they've got Lewy bodies. Okay, so in relation to what you need to do in aged care for the standards that we have in Australia, is you need to maintain your qualifications and your currency. So even at my age, I still work in aged care where I am with dementia clients all the time. We have a new system in Australia since 2015, and to be in residential aged care for dementia, you have to be either palliative or have dementia to the areas to what we call stage 3 or 4. Is dementia inherited? Sometimes. I think if your parents suffered with dementia, then there's a very likelihood that you may get it. You need to be mindful if that's the case. If a person has dementia in the family, if that is in the family, start to check on it early. Start to have a look at those people. They need to know the warning signs. Families need to talk about dementia long before it arrives. I've already had the discussion with my family about dementia. Whether it is inherited or not, I don't know. I was very fortunate that my mother only suffered for a very short time. But that came through a drastic weight loss. I think her onset of dementia came with the size that she went from, I don't know, in the old scale, she was about 13 or 14 stone, which is about 190 kgs to 45 kgs in 2 months. So she had a drastic weight loss, which meant that she couldn't eat, she couldn't do anything. And I think that was the onset of dementia for her. That's when things deteriorated greatly. Is it inherited? I think if the gene is there, you need to manage it. But it doesn't say that everyone who has dementia in the family will get dementia. So that's, again, diagnosis, early diagnosis and early recognition is the key to making sure that if that's the case. They have some areas they have lots of research now that the nations who don't have high levels of dementia, Western world is the worst. Subcontinent has the lowest level of dementia. And the key to that is, they're saying that is because of the ingestion of turmeric in their diet. Turmeric in the diet seems to be, at the moment, the research level of how we do things. The other thing I'd like to say about dementia is what we do now is we retrain the brain. So when we have a client with dementia, we have to go back and retrain the brain what it used to do before. That is repetitive, routine, and it's painstakingly hard. So you need to be patient, you need to be caring, and you need to have empathy for these people and not sympathy. Sympathy does not work. Empathy is you understand what this person is and where they're at, where they are in their relation to their disease. You need to be very conscious of how you do that. The only way that you'll learn all of that in one fell swoop is to be trained and qualified. Qualifications is the key. Cert 3, Cert 4s, and continuous improvement on your personal development, which I do all the time. Yeah. And individual support aged care is where we start in Australia. Then we go to aging support, and then everything else that flows on from those areas. I think I've answered. And is there any other questions that anyone wanted to ask? No, all good. So is that over to you, Sunny? Are you?
Thank you, Ava.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
What
Right.
a very enlightening talk, Ava. I myself, I'm really surprised about these learnings today. I also have my own grandmother that I'm looking after, and I believe this is very useful to me as well, and for myself, because
Good.
I learned that it's actually, it could be inherited or it could be for anybody could have this
Yes,
from what
absolutely.
I learned, right? Thank you also for answering already the questions. For all participants who may have other questions, feel free to still post them in the chat box. So we'll get back to you, Ava.
Yes,
In the
okay.
meantime, yes, let us now call on Sunny Jin. Sunny will be
Hello,
sharing about
everyone.
Kirana Colleges Australia. So let me just spotlight you now. I hope you can see Sunny. Over to you.
Hello. Thank you, everyone. My name is Sunny. I'm the recruitment manager at Kirana Colleges Australia. So I work with education agents to recruit international
Sunny,
students to come to study in Australia.
Sunny, sorry, could you please just increase your volume a bit?
Okay, sure.
Speak a little bit loudly. Thank you.
Can you hear me now better?
I think a little louder would be good.
Okay, I'll just see
I think
whether
just when you speak. Thank you.
it's better. Yeah. Okay.
I think, yeah,
So
it's audible. Thank you.
yes, sure. So my name is Sunny. I'm from Kirana Colleges Australia. I work as recruitment manager here to recruit international students. So basically, I work with education agents to look after international students so that they can find the correct courses to come and study in Australia. So now I'm gonna share my screen with everyone to talk about our courses briefly. So can everyone see my screen properly?
Yes, I think so, Sunny. Just, all
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Yeah, no problem. So, so a little bit about us. We are RTO, so we call it a registered training organization approved by ASQA. And then we are also a CRICOS registered organization. That means a lot of people don't know about CRICOS, but they probably heard about COEs. So we, as a CRICOS registered organization, we will be able to issue COEs for international students. And then they will be, once they receive their COE, they will be able to apply for their student visa. Yeah, so, and now I would like to talk about a little bit about the KCA. So our purpose is to grow people. So that's why around within our courses, we try to teach people job-ready skills so that they can later change the world. So here comes our, we believe that you can change the world by starting with yourself. So that's our belief at Kirana Colleges Australia. So we noticed that now in the world, there are three mega trends, we call it. So first, we see that there are a lot of newborns under 5 years old. So we can see a booming population around the world. And also, we also noticed an aging population. So on the other, so there are two sides of the spectrum. So we noticed that by 2050, people aged 80 is projected to increase to 425 million. So that's a huge number. So that's why today our topic is about like dementia care related to aged care. And then besides those two mega trends, we will see that when you wake up, the first thing you do is to look at your mobile phone and then to check those social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram. So that's another part of the mega trend. So because of those three mega trends, we designed our qualifications around it. So we offer early childhood education, individual support, aging support that is related to aged care, community services, social media marketing, and then leadership management. So with leadership and management, this is purely for our students who are in the early childhood and the aged care industry, if they like to move up to become managers in the field. So I'll move on to, so just now Eva talked about dementia. So dementia is a big topic in the aged care sector. And then we're looking at the aging population in the world. The number of older persons is projected to double to 1.5 billion in 2050. And then one in six people in the world will be aged 65 years or over. Because of that, here in Australia, we look at the number of people aged 65 and over. By 2055, it will be doubled from compared to now. So we look at the growth of the aged care sector in Australia, and then the demand for this sector will be doubled as well over the next 40 years. So because of that, there is a skill shortage in this field, and it is not only in Australia, but it is a global issue. That's why all our qualifications is actually to prepare our students with job-ready qualifications so that they can gain employment in those fields. And then to compare our qualification, people might think, oh, why do we have to do vocational instead of higher education? I know a lot of audience here are already registered nurses. They have completed their higher education. But with higher education, they don't provide practical skills as vocational. So let's look at this might be of interest to many of you. So here is the job growth in Australia projected in 5 years' time. So when we look at the aged care worker and community support worker, there will be over 25% and 29% job growth in the next 5 years. So we can see the demand. So at Kirana Colleges Australia, we offer three qualifications that is closely related to aged care. One is Certificate 3, Certificate 4, and then Diploma of Community Services. So there are, so we can, with Certificate 3, it is a three-term course. And then Cert 4 is also a three-term course. Both courses will include 150 hours of work placement, which is arranged by Kirana Colleges Australia. So later on, I will talk about the work placement as well. And then you also have, once you complete your certificate 3 and certificate 4, you will be able to move on to Diploma of Community Services. With Diploma, it is a 6-term program, but with 240 hours of work placement included in the package. But also you can choose to do package programs. For example, to do certificate 3 and cert 4 as a 1-year program, or to do cert 3 and diploma as a 2-year program. So depending on how long you would like to carry out your study. So just now I mentioned about work placement. So with work placement, it will allow you to gain hands-on experience in your chosen field of study. So when we talk about aged care, you will be placed in a registered nursing home to carry out your placement with supervision from KCA team. So our team will also assist our students to find a suitable facility to carry out that work placement. So I will show you a picture of, actually you can notice Eva as well. So this is one of her group that is that are ready to commence their work placement. And at Kirana Colleges, we have over 120 nursing homes that are willing to take our students for work placement. So you will also get one of those work placement polo shirt, so that everyone knows you are from KCA. So then we talk about entry requirements. So if you want to study this course, what are the requirements? You have to be at least 18 years old, and then you also need to meet our English language proficiency. You can do IELTS test or equivalent tests. Also, you need to have a minimum high school certificate or equivalent. And then we look at our intakes. So at Kirana Colleges Australia, we have 4 intakes per year. So if you are applying from offshore, make sure that you prepare ahead so that you have enough time to apply for your student visa. So we have January, April, July, and October, and you can prepare accordingly. So it's a quick presentation about us. I hope you get enough information about KCA and our courses. So we have many other courses, but today's focus is only on aged care. If you would like to know further information, you can also speak to Careers Connect, CCN, and then they will be able to help you with all your inquiries as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy, for that also interesting presentation. And I just was excited to see that there's a great demand when it comes to aged care workers in Australia. So this is a really good opportunity for anybody here today joining us who's interested in exploring that possibility. Thank you for sharing that. So let me just share my screen. Actually, we should have started our Q&A today, but Ava was gracious enough to already answer the questions. I do have just a couple of questions, Ava, for you. So I think somebody is asking, oh no, sorry. This is for Sunny. This is in relation to the work placement.
Yeah.
So the question is if there is a paid component.
No, work placement is not paid for. It's 120 hours of working within an organisation to learn from already existing workers, to be supervised by qualified staff. The work placement is part of the training package, and it has to be done to achieve the certificate competency level. From those work placements, if they are done true and correct and the student works to their ability, they are usually employed by the organisations who take them on as work placement. 85% of our students end up with a job from their work placement. It's a very high ratio. And I've got one organisation who rings me and just says, send me students from your organisation, from Kirana, so that they can actually put them on, do their work placement, and then employ them as casuals.
Wow.
Under their student visas. Yeah.
Excellent. And how about an age limit to enter the program? Is there
You
any
have to
limit? I
be,
see that it's from 18.
Yes.
yeah, you have to be 18 because you've got to meet the requirements of the international police check. Yeah. And is there a skill shortage? According to the figures yesterday, this area has about a 300% shortfall of staff at this point in time.
Wow.
And it
Okay,
is just being, the federal government has just sunk another, I can't remember the amount of billions of dollars into aged care to increase the staffing levels and to bring the ratios back to what we had prior to 2015. We used to have a ratio per client situation. They abolished that, but they now know that that was not a right decision and it's coming back in. So all this money will go into employing ratio per client staff so that these clients have high quality care at all times.
excellent. Sunny, did you want to add anything? Sorry.
Yeah, I think Eva covered all because she knows the industry much better than me. Yeah, so with in regards to the entry requirement, I talk about students have to be 18 years old. Yeah, and then Eva covers the area in regards to the work placement. So
Right. Thank you. Okay, to all participants. Oh, there's another question.
What is the ratio for carer client?
Ratio career client. Yeah.
The ratio for carer clients is that if you've got clients who are bedridden, they require a lot more care because they have to have 2 workers to work with them all the time. Whereas you've got a client who may be semi-independent or mobile, then the ratio can drop down to 1 client per ratio. So if you've got an aged care home that has, let's say, 10 bedridden clients, then their ratio is much higher than the area where they have 10 mobile clients or 10 clients who have some self-directive. That means that they can do some of their own personal care. So they have to work the ratios to the level of care that's required. Now, we have what we call streams. Our care goes in streams. So a person who is bedridden means that they are a stream 4. They need 24 hours, 7 days a week care. So their ratios are much higher than a person who is a stream 3 or a 4 or a 2. So if you've got a term 2, they might only need a requirement of, they may need 24-hour care, but not constantly caring for them on an hourly basis.
Thank you, Ava. And we have another question. Sunny, I think you can help me answer this. Somebody's interested in knowing the tuition.
the tuition, yeah.
The
So I
program?
just replied in the chat. We have a full price list depending on what kind of program she would like to choose. Then the price will be slightly different depending on the package and the program. So like she will be able to get our price list from CCN later. Yeah.
Yes, great. We'll make sure that we also send that via email after this event, Sunny. So did we have any other questions from any of the participants? Awesome questions, guys. I'm very happy to see all these questions. I'm also learning from your questions. So we've got a very fantastic group today. All right, so I'm just giving a few seconds to allow anybody who still wants to send in their questions. So I think while they're still thinking, you can feel free to send any of your questions via email. So our details are in the screen right now. If you are interested in exploring Kirana Colleges Australia's program, the best way is for you to send us your updated resume or CV. Send it to info@ccna.com. what CCN will do for you is to actually give you the proper full orientation to learn about studying in Kirana, choosing the best program that fit your qualification, and planning your application for 2021 or as early as October 2020. I think, Sunny, that's still possible, right?
Yes, yes.
Let's just hope that the Philippines could also improve our current situation. But no worries, let's remain positive, and I'm sure we can all be back to our normal. So there you go. I think we've just managed to answer all of the questions today, and we are just right on time today. Awesome. And I'd like to officially now conclude our session by thanking everyone for their time on this Thursday afternoon here in the Philippines and also in Australia. And to our guest speaker, Ava Mayer, for gracing this session. Thank you so much. We learned a lot from you, just like a teacher at school. Excellent. And Sunny Jin for sharing this interesting information about Kirana Colleges program and that aged care is really an in-demand job for everyone who might be interested in exploring. We appreciate your time today and for making this event possible. So to all the participants, let's meet again in our upcoming masterclass this month, and make sure that you check out your email for the e-certificates of attendance. For now, please enjoy the rest of the day and stay safe. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you.